I have another theory,
Hmm.
hypothesis that I'm pretty attached to, that the fundamental cannot be particles. The
Hmm.
fundamental has to be something continuous. And, they say the probability of finding an electron goes down with distance, but it never gets to zero.
Hmm.
And I'm on board with that because I think that a hard edge involves an infinity, a singularity, if you want to put it that way, that can't exist. So I think that there's excitations in the ether or in whatever is the fundamental stuff or stuffs. And when it's got elevated above a certain point, we see it as an electron, but it really decays slowly throughout the universe.
Right. So so it can't be these discretized bits of ether, because then you'd get instantaneous jumps
Yes.
at any given. Now I have a counter argument to this, which is,
Okay.
what if what if the continuous nature of fields that we're aware of is valid up until a certain point, and really that is caused by some deeper nature of how discrete bits are acting on one another, and what we see, the continuous nature of the fields and the way that they act on one another, is just a result of that. That if we zoomed
Yeah.
in close enough, there would be a bunch of non-infinite, perfectly reasonable interactions between individual constituents.
Yeah, it raises the question of what is position at a small enough scale, if
Mm.
that's the metaphysics, the physics. Um, I'm assuming that no matter how far we zoom in, we can talk about, well, you get closer and closer and closer, and then there's a jump at an infinitely fine point. But maybe space or position systems are not that way
Right,
at the sub-ether level
right.
or even the ether level. So that I have to yield on that. That's a
Yeah.
good argument.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, the other thing I think about when it comes to position is that spatial concepts in position might not apply to the sub ether level at all, because perhaps position is nothing more than a question of what part of the medium is this wave going on in. And so, like, space itself is a product of a relationship between the ether parts,
Yeah,
or or the
different
continuous.
substance parts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, parts
Um,
is tricky because I'm assuming there's discrete bits, but like, but I don't want to do that, because maybe
yeah.
I mean, it could be continuous.
Yeah,
Um,
we can't tell. I'm silenced by authority here in that in the workshops following the publication of her work on epistemology, Ayn Rand held, she was asked about the properties of what she called the little stuff,
mhm,
which is that which is where nothing isn't, is this
mhm.
definition of little stuff. Is what we've been getting at is the ultimate stuff of the universe. And she said you couldn't even say that shape applied there. It's
Yeah,
not, you can't, maybe it does, but you can't go from macroscopic entities have borders and shapes, so the littlest stuff must have it. All you can say is it is what it is and does what it does.
right, right. Yeah, you could say that, though. It's important to
Yeah.
note that you can say that it is what it
Yes.
is, and it does what it does. It is an entity, and it does things to other entities. Like, you know that much.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, that's interesting. Now I have a deeper question that sort of conditions all of this. I've said this kind of thing before. I'd be interested to know if you agree. I'm skeptical of the project of guessing at the nature of ultimate constituents at all. When I look at the history of man doing this, I see no progress, and in certain cases negative progress. So like the classic example you give of this is the atomists, the Greek atomists.
Yes. Yeah.
And people might say, oh, well, James, that was incredible because that helped people find chemical atoms. I'm skeptical because these two atoms are completely different. What the Greek atomists were talking about is the ultimate constituents that well, okay, hold on. I'm already thinking of a counter argument to what I'm saying here. The atomists, here's something good that came. Let me explain the difference between the two atoms, though. The atomists were saying there's these ultimate constituents and they don't change. It's just their relationships between them that change. Okay? The chemists were saying there's a certain smallest bit of matter that can participate in a chemical reaction, and that's an atom. And those are different things. The chemical atoms are not some kind of hypothesis about the ultimate stuff. They are a proven idea that explains the nature of chemical reactions. It's a different thing. They're not claiming it's the ultimate stuff. Okay, but I'm already noticing I'm wrong here. So basically my point is if you start speculating about this stuff, it starts to confuse you. But I can already see some benefit. I'm already seeing a counter argument, which is that the atomists had at least a low resolution solution to the problem of change. I think they didn't, right. I don't know if they said it this explicitly, but like implicit in these atoms is it's not the fundamentals that just poof change into something else. It's that their relationships with one another change. That's the thing that change. And so they implicitly, and then I think Aristotle's the one who formulated it more broadly with his concepts of form and matter. But you could definitely argue that they helped. Although you could also argue that they imported an arbitrary hypothesis into the mix, which confuses the issue. So I'm really skeptical about I'm still skeptical about the idea of guessing at the ultimate constituents. I think you should be very clear on just, here's the stuff we know. How do we infer our way to the next level? Is that the final level? I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. What would the final level even look like? I don't even know. Maybe something new will happen when we finally get to the last level. But I don't know. I don't want to think about that stuff yet. What are your thoughts on this
the way
issue?
you know you're at the last level is that there are no unexplained phenomenon. The nature of what you've got explains everything, and then it would be arbitrary to suppose that there's another level.
I see, because then there'd be nothing. How would I say this? There's no lower level that's like switching on and off that would affect levels higher. And so there's no reason to think that they're there. And even if they are there, then like they don't matter because they're not making a difference. So like
they're
maybe
not
they're
making a
there,
difference.
but they don't make a difference.
Right.
And until you had evidence that they made a difference, there's no reason to look.
That's right.
Cool. Okay. Wow.
We're not
I've been
yet.
wondering about that for years. What would it look like to reach the final level? And now I know. Yeah, that's a good explanation.
We know what it looks like to reach the final frontier. Space is the final frontier.
Right.
If you know your Star Trek.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
Thank you very much, Harry. This was a lot of fun, and I learned quite a bit.
Good. Me too. So maybe I'll come back if you invite me back.
I think I will. Well, until next time.
Bye.